Due to severe financial constraints, they presented their case to the bank asking for $38 million for their state-of-the-art facility. Please give us this sympathy money. We have Angel Reese. She's star. Dozens of people bought tickets last year to witness her mythical streak of double-doubles. We promise to pay you back within the next 200 or 300 years.
So the WNBA is kicking off its first ever Rivals Week, and quit trying to tell me Angel Reese is a rival of Caitlyn Clark on the court. The Rivals Week game between the Fever and Sky will take place in Indiana. The game will be showcased on CBS. The Chicago Sky starts dropping elbows off the top rope on the Caitlyn Clark. Okay, I mean, maybe that's what they're going for. I don't know.
It just happened 2 minutes ago. The Chicago Sky walked into the bank with confidence, headlines, and Angel Reese. They walked out with nothing. A $38 million loan request? Rejected.
The Chicago Bravado proudly announced plans to build a state-of-the-art practice facility. But there was just one problem. They did not have the money to build the facility. The Chicago Bravado, they were having trouble finding a bank that was willing to loan them money. Their loan request was denied, rejected.
And you mentioned how you stand up for other people. I want you to know that we stand for you.
Thank you.
Sis, your fans, they're not to be played with.
Thank you.
We do, and we know you carry a lot of weight and you represent so much, but we love what you have brought to the game, and I feel like a lot of people on the outside are saying, oh, this person gets the credit, that person's for us. We got you, period, period.
And the message from the banks couldn't be clearer. Media hype isn't collateral. While ESPN tries to sell a rivalry and fans are fed a fairy tale, the harsh truth just landed like a brick. Angel Reese isn't moving the needle, and the financial world knows it.
Since the WNBA believes they're entitled to money they haven't earned, they figured they could just go down to the sympathy bank and ask for a loan.
Now, with Caitlyn Clark thriving and the Indiana Fever becoming the face of the league, even Chicago's front office is starting to realize they might need her more than they want to admit. The cracks in the hype started quietly, but now they're possible to ignore. The Chicago Sky had one job: prove that Angel Reese wasn't just a media darling, but a legitimate business asset capable of elevating an entire franchise.
This is great news for women's basketball, period.
So when they walked into a bank asking for a $38 million loan to build a state-of-the-art practice facility, they didn't come with financial proof, championship pedigree, or strong ticket sales.
The Fever versus the Sky is not a rival. Indiana smoked the Sky 3-1.
They came with Instagram followers and media buzz. And the banks? They weren't buying it. Not one, not two, but multiple financial institutions looked at the numbers, the projections, the pitch, and shut it all down.
It's not surprising that Angel Reese has more Instagram followers. Most of her following consists of lonely men who are patiently waiting for another provocative picture to be uploaded so they can commence spanking the wanker.
Rejected, denied, declined, not even offered at a high interest rate. The Chicago Sky were forced to go begging to the Bedford Park City Council, asking them to front the money using taxpayer dollars, not because the team didn't want to pay interest, but because no one with real capital believed in their return on investment.
Since the Chicago Bravado were having a difficult time finding a consistent place to practice, it is painfully obvious that practice isn't something that they do on a regular basis.
Let's break that down. In professional sports, loans like this aren't rare. NBA teams get them all the time. They come with sky-high costs, but they're backed by players who deliver, guys who pack arenas, dominate ratings, and sell out merchandise nationwide. That's the model. That's the leverage. But when the Chicago Sky tried the same play with Angel Reese as their centerpiece, the financial world basically laughed them out of the room. They tried to pitch her as the WNBA's next big thing.
It was trying to convince us that Caitlyn Clark was not the only one responsible for elevating the WNBA dump. Forbes tries to convince us that Angel Reese is more popular than Caitlyn Clark and Paige Bueckers combined. What evidence was provided? Angel Reese has more Instagram followers. What the hell does that have to do with anything? I didn't even know that Caitlyn Clark was on Instagram.
They sold the bank on her millions of Instagram followers, her pop culture presence, her NCOLA storyline. But what they couldn't show, revenue, real viewership. ticket sales, brand trust. Because the truth is, Angel Reese may be a household name on social media, but she isn't driving butts to seats. She isn't moving product. She isn't generating the kind of economic impact that justifies a multi-million-dollar investment.
The only way for a bank to stay in business is to loan money. Banks want to give you their money while charging exorbitant interest rates.
Meanwhile, as this rejection hits headlines, Caitlyn Clark and the Indiana Fever are rewriting the WNBA's financial playbook in real time. Packed arenas, national TV deals, skyrocketing jersey sales. Every city the Fever travels to sees a surge in ticket demand. And more importantly, the numbers match the noise. That's what investors, brands, and now banks are starting to notice.
I hope Caitlyn Clark plays for the next 20 years. But articles and false narratives like this, they are what turn people away from the WNBA.
What makes it even more damning is the Sky's desperation. After getting turned down by banks, they didn't just ask the city council for a loan, they asked for an interest-free loan. Let that sink in. A professional sports team, backed by a supposedly marketable star, was essentially begging for a handout. Not a partnership, not a business deal, a bailout. The result? Embarrassment. Because this moment exposed something the WNBA media machine has tried to hide for months. Angel Reese's name doesn't equal revenue. And when real money's on the line, the facade falls apart.
I know $38 million sounds like a lot of money, but there are dozens of players in the NBA making more money than that in a single season. They went to the city council in Bedford Park, begging them to front the money for the facility. They also wanted the loan to be interest-free.
You don't get rejected for a $38 million loan if your star player is truly a needle mover. You get approved in minutes. That's how a sports business works. And yet, while Chicago stumbles through financial red tape, the Fever continue to rise. Their games are drawing primetime coverage, their merchandise sells out weekly, and investors are lining up, not because they were sold a story, but because they saw the results.
A $38 million loan for a professional sports team, that should be approved without hesitation. And that's what the WNBA is. The WNBA is professional basketball. But for some reason, the banks in Chicago, they didn't quite see it that way.
The contrast is brutal. The lesson? Even banks know the truth. The WNBA's real future isn't Angel Reese, it's Caitlyn Clark. As the financial fallout surrounding the Chicago Sky's failed loan request spreads, so does the scrutiny, especially on the media that's been force-feeding fans a narrative that's collapsing under its own weight. ESPN, Forbes, and several mainstream outlets have been working overtime to convince the public that Angel Reese is the face of the league.
Forbes publishes an article trying to convince us that Angel Reese is responsible for the WNBA's growth. The same Angel Reese who can't sell out games. And the same Angel Reese that banks had absolutely no faith in to generate enough revenue to pay back a $38 million loan.
That she's a draw, that she's elevating women's basketball alongside or even above Caitlyn Clark. But now with the banks saying no, the fans saying enough, and the numbers screaming the truth, that story is crumbling fast. Let's start with ESPN's latest ploy, WNBA Rivals Week. The headline event, Caitlyn Clark and the Indiana Fever versus Angel Reese and the Chicago Sky.
Black female athletes are marketable, but the athletes that Tamika Townsell mentioned, they are not elevating the WNBA.
The marketing made it look like a LeBron versus Steph moment. Posters, promos, buzz. But behind the curtain, the matchup isn't even close. Last season, Indiana beat Chicago 3-1. These weren't thrilling duels. They were one-sided beatdowns. Clark didn't just win, she dominated. And yet ESPN continues to act like this is a war of equals. As if Reese is carrying the same weight, drawing the same fans, creating the same impact.
Angel Reese was given the chance to prove herself. Angel Reese was the most recognizable name in Unrivaled. Hell, she was the only recognizable name in Unrivaled. Angel Reese could not sell out home games last year. The Chicago Bravado averaged around 8,700 in an arena that seats over 10,000.
But fans aren't stupid. They've seen the scoreboard. They've watched the games. And most importantly, they've seen who they're paying to watch. And it's not Angel Reese. To keep up the illusion, the media shifted the goalposts. Suddenly, it wasn't about basketball. It was about Instagram followers. Forbes dropped a puff piece claiming Angel Reese is more popular than Caitlyn Clark and Paige Bueckers combined, based on her social media presence. Not on points, not on wins, not on ticket sales or jersey numbers. Instagram.
How Angel Reese and Asia Wilson lead the WNBA's growth. You expect me to believe that AR and AJ are responsible for elevating the WNBA dump? The same AJ Wilson that's been in the WNBA since 2018 and is still unrecognized at the Wilson family reunions?
Let's be real. If Instagram popularity translated to arena revenue, the Chicago Sky wouldn't be begging the city council for cash. They'd be building that facility already. But here's the truth. Likes don't equal loyalty, and followers don't fill seats. Angel Reese's audience may be massive online, but in the real world of sports business, that following isn't converting into financial trust. The banks have spoken.
Since Caitlyn Clark got her shoe deal last spring and Nike felt compelled to give a similar deal to Asia Wilson, the media has tried to convince us that AJ Wilson is a draw. The media can lie, they can pretend that all of these other players are responsible for elevating the league, but no one believes it. The only reason DJ Carrington was briefly famous is because of her altercations last year with Caitlyn Clark. Hell, the only reason we're even talking about the WNBA is because Caitlyn Clark is playing and elevating the league.
Even unrivaled, the player-led WNBA offshoot league gave her a spotlight. She was the biggest name on the court. And what happened? It flopped. Empty seats, zero buzz, minimal engagement outside of social media. It's harsh, but it's true. Reese isn't delivering at the level she's being credited for. And fans have had enough. Social platforms are flooded with pushback. People are questioning why the media keeps forcing this fake rivalry narrative when the only rivalry that exists is on paper.
We are supposed to believe that Angel Reese is elevating the WNBA. Angel Reese can't even elevate her own team.
It's not Caitlyn versus Angel. It's Clark versus expectations, and she's crushing them all. The WNBA didn't need a social media star. It needed a superstar. Someone who could bring real basketball fans back to the sport. Someone who didn't need drama to stay relevant. Someone who didn't have to elbow opponents or stir up headlines just to trend. And they got that in Caitlyn Clark. While Reese's camp scrambles to find the next media angle, Clark's just playing. She's dropping double-doubles, setting rookie records, passing legends, and doing it without the theatrics.
Fever won 3 games last year. It was 3-1. Now, I don't know what kind of rivalry that is. That was last year.
She's not trying to look like the face of the league. She's already become it, by force of performance alone. And that's the part that hurts the media the most. They didn't get to choose the star. The fans did. The numbers did. The ratings did. The banks did. And every one of them chose Caitlyn Clark.
There is a reason why she's in 41 of 44 nationally televised games. WNBA at least understands since they've got a cash cow. Man, this league better learn to protect their cash cow.
So while Forbes writes fluff and ESPN manufactures tension, the real story is playing out in arenas across the country. And every time Clark steps on the court, that story gets harder to deny. While the media keeps spinning, while Chicago scrambles for funding, and while Angel Reese rides a wave of press that's thinning by the day, Caitlyn Clark is building something far more powerful, a legacy rooted in results. And now the difference between these two athletes isn't just obvious, it's undeniable.
The showdowns between Clark and Reese last season brought in some of the league's biggest ratings numbers in 23 years. She is not only the needle mover, she is the needle, but at this point, it's pretty clear Caitlyn Clark is driving the bus and driving the sales.
Let's talk impact. Caitlyn Clark didn't need a viral moment to become the face of the WNBA. She didn't need controversy, stage rivalries, or fabricated beef. She showed up, delivered elite-level basketball, and made the Indiana Fever, a team that was all but forgotten, the most talked-about franchise in the league. Her presence alone has shifted the entire landscape of women's basketball. While the Sky are struggling to put fans in seats, the Fever are selling out home and away games.
$366,000. A new record for a female athlete. Caitlyn is the needle. Smashed the old record held by Serena by $100,000.
Who's going to be the next face of the NBA? We don't get to decide that. The marketplace decides that. The people have chosen Caitlyn Clark. They enjoy watching her play, her style, her energy, her shot. Whether it's because her game mirrors one of the greatest players in the NBA in Steph Curry or not, I don't know what it is. It's an intangible thing, right? Yes, we can say she's a dog. Okay, there's been other dogs. Okay, she's a great shooter. There's been other great shooters. She has it. She's got the thing.
And for Caitlyn Clark to have the awareness to drive the eyeballs there, you have to give her so much credit.
Cities are upgrading to NBA arenas, not for Angel Reese, not for the Chicago Sky, but for Caitlyn Clark. When Indiana plays Chicago, the venue moves to the United Center. Why? Because Clark fills arenas. Let's compare that to what's happening in Chicago. Their average ticket sales? Around $8,700 per game in a 10,000-seat arena. And that's tickets sold, not actual attendance. The visuals speak volumes. Empty seats, quiet crowds, and little excitement unless the Fever are in town.
If I was the WNBA, I would have considered a separate television package to a network on just Caitlyn Clark games. I would have had two packages, the WNBA package, and then a separate, let's say 15 to 18 game Caitlyn Clark package.
Whether you like the Indiana Fever or not, whether you like Caitlyn Clark or not, it has gotten to the point where we can no longer deny the fact that they are the biggest draw in the WNBA, and they proved that all of last season.
You can't build a powerhouse franchise or justify a $38 million loan with those kinds of numbers. The banks noticed, the fans noticed, the league noticed. That's why Clark is featured in 41 of 44 nationally televised games this season. That's why sponsors are lining up, why merchandise with her name sells out in minutes, and why TV ratings are shattering records not seen in decades.
Caitlyn Clark is the biggest draw in women's basketball, and without her, many fans just aren't going to tune in.
America sent them a clear reminder. We are not interested in watching pretend basketball. We have 30 years of evidence that proves women's basketball does not draw on television. We have 30 years of evidence that proves Americans are not interested in women's basketball.
If you don't have Caitlyn Clark playing women's basketball, or if you're not the NCAA tournament playing women's basketball, you got nothing.
Meanwhile, Angel Reese is becoming known more for her brand than her basketball. Headlines focus on her outfits, social posts, or off-court drama, not on elite play, not on leadership, and certainly not on wins. She's talented, no doubt, but the league doesn't need celebrity energy. It needs consistency, performance, and star power that brings in real money. That's what Caitlyn Clark delivers, night after night.
ESPN, you're a joke. Stop pushing narratives we don't care for. Caitlyn versus Asia. Now that's a narrative. What they really want to see is tune in for hate night.
Even Clark's critics are being forced to pivot. What started as petty jabs, she's overhyped, she can't handle the physicality, she's only popular because of who she is, have all fallen flat in the face of record-breaking stats and undeniable leadership. She's not just surviving the WNBA, she's raising its ceiling. And perhaps most importantly, Clark's impact isn't just for show, it's lasting. She's bringing young girls to games. She's creating generational fans. She's introducing people to a league they once ignored. And she's doing it all by focusing on the one thing that has always mattered most, the game.
Angel Reese is the most unskilled basketball player in the history of basketball, in my opinion. She has no skills. She knows that she's not a very good basketball player. That's why she spends so much time half naked and taking pictures and promoting things that have nothing to do with basketball.
This is Angel Reese, the content creator side. It's pretty clear basketball is her top priority. I cannot imagine how anybody could view this athlete in any other way. It's clear basketball is front and foremost. This is all helping with things like shooting better from the field and missing layups. She has no rhythm, just like she can't make a layup. Practice layups. OnlyFans incoming.
While Reese's image is curated, Clark's dominance is earned, and the contrast becomes clearer every week. One player is still trying to prove she belongs. The other? She's already rewriting the league's history books. So when you look at where the WNBA stands today, When you look at who's being turned away by banks and who's being welcomed by sponsors, networks, and fans, the truth is glaring. Caitlyn Clark is carrying the league. Angel Reese is watching. The truth is out, and there's no spinning it anymore.
Caitlyn Clark is a hell of a player for sure. But I don't take disrespect lightly. And she disrespected Alexis and my girls. South Carolina, they still my SEC girls too. But y'all not gonna disrespect them either. So I wanted to pick her pocket, but I had a moment at the end of the game, and I was in my bag. I was in my moment. Yeah.
Honestly, I have no idea. I was just trying to get to the handshake line and shake hands, and be grateful that my team was in that position. That's all you can do is, hold your head high, be proud of what you did, and, all the credit in the world to LSU. They were tremendous. They deserve it.
Dejanay Carrington, you wouldn't even know who she was if she didn't try to beat up Caitlyn Clark in a game. You wouldn't even know, but these two clowns got together as the dumbest people in sports and saying, wait for it, they need more money, threatening to hold out if they don't get what they want.
While Angel Reese was used as a selling point and still couldn't secure a $38 million loan, Caitlyn Clark continues to bring millions in value with nothing but her game. No gimmicks, no stage rivalries. Just pure, undeniable basketball. The banks have spoken. The fans have spoken. The numbers don't lie. The WNBA isn't being built around media narratives. It's being rebuilt around results. And Caitlyn Clark isn't just part of the story. She is the story. So while Chicago pleads for funding and ESPN pushes headlines that don't match the scoreboard, Clark keeps winning on the court, in the ratings, in the hearts of fans who finally have a reason to believe again. This isn't a rivalry, it's a reality check. And the future of the WNBA is wearing number 22.